So this video is going to cover how to use the order of operations, and we're going to be using a strategy called GEMDAS. So I'm going to use a thick marker here. So if you're doing your notes, I would recommend maybe a thick marker. At least make sure that these letters are standing out. So we're going to have a G and an E, and then we're going to have an M and a D that are going to be together on the same line. And with that M and D, you're going to draw an arrow, and an L and an R like that. And then at the bottom, we're going to have an A and an S, and same thing. You're going to have an arrow, and an L, and an R. So GEMDAS is the strategy to help you remember to use your order of operations. And the G, the G stands for grouping symbols. So over here on the left, we're going to write grouping symbols. And we'll talk about what those are in a minute. But one thing you need to remember is that you work your grouping symbols from the inside out. So I'm going to write that and then have arrows demonstrating that you work them from the inside out. And then we can talk about what types of grouping symbols you might see. So the most common types of grouping symbols that you'll see are parentheses, but sometimes you might see those are called brackets. And then these last ones are kind of hard to draw, but they're called braces. And so if there are more than one set of grouping symbols, like one is inside of another one, you work the one that's inside first, and then you work your way out. So that's the very first thing you do. And once you've worked anything that's inside grouping symbols, you move to the next step, which is exponents. Exponents is a place where people mess up because they forget the rules for exponents. So remember, if we had 4 to the second power, 4 is our base, that's what's being multiplied. 2 is our exponent, that tells us how many times to multiply. So 4 to the second power is the same thing as 4 times 4. Okay, once you've done your grouping symbols and you've done any exponents you might have in your problem, you move to this next step. The M stands for multiplication and the D stands for division. But it's not multiplication and then division. It's any multiplication or division that you have in your problem, and if you have more than one, you go from left to right. So that's what the L and the R stand for. So you work multiplication or division from left to right. And remember that you might see different multiplication symbols. You could see the X, you could see a dot, or you could see a number and then a parentheses and another number. All of those are ways to show multiplication that you might see. And then if you need to divide, you might see your normal division symbol, but remember you also might see a number over another number, and that fraction bar means division. Once you've worked any multiplication or division in your problem, the last thing you do is any addition or subtraction. And again, if you have more than just one, you go from left to right. So that might mean you might subtract first if that's on the left. So we add or subtract going from left to right. So I'm not actually going to work any problems in this video. This was just to explain GEMDAS. So I will have another video that has some practice problems if you want to see how this works.